Hello, everybody. Hello. This is Kat from Cosmic Metamorphosis. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I know it's been a long time since my last video. I have been working uh, some weird hours and just full time, and just now finished up Alex Collier's webinar from June 16th this year. And today is September 26th. So I'm 3 months, almost 4 months behind. I am seriously thinking that maybe I will just do maybe a couple of videos to get us up to date. I'll take the webinars, not the question and answer webinars, but just his Intel webinars for like July, August, or the rest of June, like maybe combine two or three and maybe not really transcribe, but take notes and do like bullet points basically of information that he's putting out. So maybe I'll do that to get us caught up to where we are. Because I've just had crazy work hours, and the I'm supposed to advance to a lead position, but I don't know when that's going to happen. And hopefully by then I will have set hours and set days, where I'll have 3 days off a week again, so I can focus on doing the transcribing. So anyway, how are y'all feeling? Are you ready to go jump off a cliff like me, like any day now? Like, I told you all this was going to drag out till the end of the year. And what did Trump just say in his recent speech was that all this will be done before 5 months, which someone says that puts us in March. So the original elections were held in March, and we're supposed to go back to the Julian calendar. So yeah, I think I've been pretty spot on to say that, yeah, none of this shit's gonna end until, yeah, the end of the year. And then 2024, we'll see things improving through January, February. Um, Yeah. So we've got Red October coming. Uh yeah, October's coming in a few days. So we'll see what happens. I think this holiday season, it's gonna be a really strange holiday season. And I think if we do have the market crash, you're starting to see that slowly now with everything. With Evergrande just announced today that they didn't make another payment. So that's huge. Yeah, things are happening in the financial industry, and things are going to start happening as the crash comes in. People think it's bad now. If we have this crash, it always happens. Thousands of people lose their jobs. So you're going to have thousands of people lose their jobs. They're going to lose their 401k. Um, I don't know. I keep telling my husband just quit. He doesn't like his job anyway. So I'm like, just quit. We'll cash out your 401k because you're going to lose it anyway. And then you can focus on finding a job you really do like. So it's going to be a trickle down effect, and it's going to affect everybody in a huge, huge way. Okay. And I think I keep getting this mental thing in my mind about, there's supposed to be a Christmas where we're all very, very happy. That might be the day where they announce. That might be the day we get the actual EAS system. That might be the day where we get, because if they're doing the EAS system, the testing here in America on October 4th, everyone's expecting certain things to happen. I don't think anything negative is going to happen. I think it is a test. And I think it's always 2 months out. I've made a mental note of that every time they do something, it takes about 2 months for the actual event to occur. So I've noticed that, and that would put us into December. So wouldn't that be a great Christmas present for everybody? So them to come in and finally say what's been happening. Okay. So we'll see what happens. But my instincts have always been right on things. So anyway, I hope y'all are hanging in there. It's been really rough. I know there's been a lot of stuff on TikTok going around. A lot of people that are, making decent money and still can't afford to live. I literally went to the store last week. I barely got anything. Maybe a third of the, cart was full, and I spent 200. Yeah, I spent $200 on a third. Like I bought chicken, which was even on sale. Uh, I think and I bought a bag of salmon for my cats. That's like $7. But I barely got anything, and it was still $200. And I'm like, oh my God. I can't, I just, yeah. The money coming in is way more, like way less than what our bills are. So I don't know how we're going to pay bills. I don't know what's going to get shut off because, yeah, we just don't have enough money to pay it. So I don't know how it is in other countries. I don't know if you can just stop paying a bill. But like, of course, if you stop paying a mortgage, they're going to, you know, take over your house. They're going to foreclose on your house, and then you have no place to live. If you stop paying any utility, they're going to cut you off. So you won't have electricity, you won't have water, you won't have your telephone, whatever. Like, yeah, really sucks. Sucks. Um, but anyway, let's get into Alex Collier's June 16th of 2023, number 185. Okay, this can be a long one, guys, so hang in there. Okay. He says, hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's an honor and a privilege to share this 2.5 hours with you. I know for many of you, you think nothing's happening, and I get that. I do. If you watch the news, there's always the one narrative, Trump, 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 bad man Trump, yada, yada, yada. Ukraine is winning. Ukraine has Russia running, yada, yada, yada. He says, it's just insanity. This is going to be a little different today. He says, before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to Sarge on Rumble and Icons 2020. I followed him. I started following him 2 or 3 years ago. I found his channel and I just love him. I love Sarge. So I'm so glad that like Alex is connecting with him. He says Sarge is really good. He's really coming through with a lot of really good information, and it's important the things he has to say and the information that he's getting. We're all trying to stay in our lanes, and I think that's important to do. But we're going to cover some stuff today. In current events, there's really, really a lot of things going on that at all not there, that are not being covered at all. He says the way they should be. And then we'll get into the other information. So he says, I also want to give a shout out to Solar Warden, to the White Hat Military Alliance worldwide, and to, of course, Space Force, or Friends of Space Force. Thank you for watching our backs, all of us, and doing what you do every single day, men and women of Space Force. We appreciate you as well as those in Space Command. We know you're awfully busy because there's so much going on in the background and most folks don't have any idea about it. Thank you. Thank you. We love you. I want to touch on some things here. He says that are important regarding the economy, the banking system, and currencies, because we're in this place where dominoes are beginning to fall. And there are many people, many truthers, speakers out there saying, okay, the storm's here. He says, technically, we've been in the storm. The worst of it is here. or is knocking on our door. But I want to take a couple of steps back to Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse, the bank. So, because there's some really interesting stuff going on. It says it might interest you guys to know, and for those of you who don't know, that the only thing that's been keeping the entire Western banking system alive is the laundering of drug money, human trafficking money. That's basically it. Because all the real wealth never really existed. Okay? It was all digital. Sorry, that was really low. Let me turn up my sound. I always forget to check that. And what's really interesting is that it turns out some of the information that's coming out is that Credit Suisse in Switzerland was laundering $50 billion a month of cartel money. It says, well, something happened. The money didn't show up. The money was blocked. The money was delayed and Credit Suisse failed. Now they've been trying to do the merger with UBS. UBS is predominantly a wealth management company. They don't do cartels money. They don't do laundering of money. It's not that they're lily white, but they're a hell of a lot cleaner than Credit Suisse was. Now, what's really interesting is that at the exact same time, this $50 billion didn't show up in Credit Suisse. $40 billion was taken out of Silicon Valley Bank in Northern California. Cartel money, and what did those cartels do with that money? He says, well, it's interesting. They rerouted it, apparently through Cuba. And he kind of laughs and he says, yes, you heard that right, through Cuba. And then through Panama, and then someplace else. So, obviously Silicon Valley Bank collapsed and was taken over by JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase has been exerting a lot of influence and has ingratiated itself in a very large way in the country of Iraq, which apparently tomorrow they're supposed to sign their new budget and constitution, which is a positive, okay? Which I think, yeah, since this was back in June, yes, I think they already did that, which is very much a positive. So it's really, really interesting, and it's interesting to pay attention to money because that's what's keeping economies afloat. Because the Federal Reserve, United States Federal Reserve, or the central bank, the privately owned central bank of the United States, hasn't printed any new currency since 2020. And cash is running out. Cash is in the process of being hoarded. Now, it's also interesting to note that if you're looking to get some cash and your banks are closing some of their branches, or your bank is saying you can only take out so many hundreds of dollars a day, the largest distributor of cash in the United States is Wells Fargo. You might want to take your ATM card there. You're going to have to pay a fee, but Wells Fargo apparently is still up and running. So this is important because we're going to go through a period of time where it could be weeks where cash will be king. And then the value of the cash will dramatically fall off even more than it is now. And then you'll have to figure out something else, okay? But it's important, and I know this is a sore subject, and I know it triggers fear. I know it triggers uncertainty. But it is really, really important that we have this conversation because nobody else wants to have it. Says, there are some people out there that will have this conversation. A few of the sources that I really trust is Jim Willie. He's number one. Dave at X22, and some of the people that he interviews are always pretty solid. But that's roughly about it. Come here. Oh, that Amber, my video kitten. She's so old. She's getting old and she's getting really skinny, poor girl. Yeah, do sit there. No? Okay. He says, and you're going to want to pay attention because the transition of the entire global financial system is changing. He says, now, the BRICS have announced that they are going to be creating their own metals market system. They're done with London because it's obvious London has been manipulating the metals market for some time. The London metals market can no longer sell paper metal, so that's done. And if you've been online and trying to buy silver by the ounce or a Morgan's or older vintage coin, you're paying a premium, anywhere from $10 to $100 for just a coin, and that's probably the actual value. And the actual worth of silver today, he says, is 10 or 70 to $100 per coin, per ounce. That's probably what it really is, because the market truly does dictate what the cost of things are. The government's their specialty is to manipulate the market, and they've done that successfully for a very, very long time. So I'm hoping that some of you who've done your due diligence, you've done the research, you've gone out and pulled some things together, that you have some resources to sustain yourselves and your families through this time. If you're waiting until the EBS to go out and do it, you're screwed. All right. If you're not doing it now, you're going to get caught without what you need, without being able to get what you need. And I know I've been saying this since 2016, and here we are. It's knocking at our door. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, he says, ladies and gentlemen, is that the United States banking system and the central bank system worldwide, the private central banking system, the Rothschilds, cannot be fixed. It simply cannot be fixed. It's so broken. It's so corrupt. It cannot be fixed. It simply has to die off or be killed off. There's also this next piece, which has not been advertised or spoken about, but Treasury bonds have defaulted. Okay. For the first time ever in the history of the United States, our Treasury bonds have defaulted. It says so, and I know there will probably be some pushback, but they have in fact defaulted. It says since there's no way to fix this, and the only way they can paper over this is to print more worthless currency. It says or I'm sorry, digitize more debt, worthless currency digitally. It's only going to find a deeper hole to fall into. So you must do something, and you must do it now. This is just me sharing this with you. You're all going to do what you want. You're all individuals and sovereign, and you're going to blow it off until you can't. And by then, it's probably going to be too late. So yes, the storm is coming. There's a lot of conversation about military aircraft. There's videos. I don't know how accurate they are or how true they are, or in fact real time, of military moving into cities in Pennsylvania, Los Angeles, and other areas. It's difficult to know because there's so much AI running now. They're running these AI programs out of Google, and you just don't know anymore. And yeah, we heard a little bit about that and saw videos, and then boom, off, nothing happened. And in fact, many of the Telegram sites are being infiltrated by AI. I know much of Terra or Knights of Terra is having an issue with it, and we're being infiltrated, or attempts to infiltrate the site and take it over and take it and move it into a completely different direction. And I will come back to the site here in a minute. This is warfare, okay? Now you've heard the expression fifth generational warfare, fifth dimensional chess. What does that actually mean? What it means is that those civilians in the war have no idea that they're in the war. They have no idea that there are battles going on around them. They're absolutely clueless that this is going on around them, which is really interesting because the reason the war is occurring is because it's targeting them, the civilian population. And there's another force that's pushing back, trying to protect the civilian population. But all of this is going on around them. And at some point, it drops from 5D to 4D to 3D. And whoops, there it is. It says everybody can see it. And it happens very, very quickly. Okay. Now, there's massive issues in real estate, both commercial and residential real estate. You're going to want to pay attention. You really are. It says because the banks don't have any money. What some of the banks are doing is they are feverishly, smaller banks are trying to add their ledger debt because they're still stuck on the fiat system and they're trying to do car loans. They're sending out all these credit card applications, trying to approve people so that they can add the debts to their accounts, to their ledger, to show that the bank itself has some value. And the only way they can create value is to create debt. And they're putting the debt onto us, bastards, right? That's what a credit card is. You're taking a debt and you're promising to pay it, and the bank is taking that $2,500 and fractionalizing it and loaning it out 5, 6, 10 times, or even more at this point, just in order to stay afloat. So it's a horrible system and it's absolutely on its way out. But a lot of folks don't understand how this works. Again, that's your money. That's your trust money that they are holding. And so you've already paid for stuff by applying for that credit card or that loan. But in return, your hardworking money, you're paying back because you think you haven't paid it, but you did. Let's talk about the movie, he says. Do you feel like you're in the never-ending story? I thought that the other day. I'm like, oh my God, we're actually in the never ending story movie. Holy shit. We're like the wolf is the darkness, the darkness comes across the land and it's Atreyu who is like comes in and he has to find the human boy to manifest. It's the human's manifestation of his imagination of how this new world that's crumbling in their dimension. It's his manifestation that brings it back to life and makes it 10 times better. I'm like, oh my God, we are totally in the never ending story. Oh my gosh. So he says, let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about what we're seeing. Now, the scenarios are real, the casualties are real, the consequences are real, but it is important to understand that probably 90% of this is all scripted. When you see the fake Biden administration, the fake Joe Biden on television, and he's allegedly at the White House, he says, ladies and gentlemen, he is not in Washington, D.C. He's either outside of Atlanta at the Tyler Perry movie studio or he's in Culver City, California at the movie studios there. And while he's saying that, I'm thinking to myself, that song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Biden's the devil. He's going down to Georgia, Atlanta. Yeah. I don't know. It says because both of them have White House mock-ups, okay? Movie sets that are the White House. That's where he is. That's where they are. That's where their portion of the show is being broadcast to you. And it's not hard to spot that if you've been paying attention for the last 10 months. Whenever you see him or see them outside the White House, it's green. Well, Washington, D.C. experiences 4 seasons, all right? We've just come out of winter, so this was back in June and summer. And if you go back and look 6, 7 months ago, even 5 months, and you're really paying attention, you're seeing palm trees, greenery, green shrubs, flowers outside the window. How could that be Washington, D.C.? So there's a lot of these little things that if you're paying attention, you will notice. And that's done on purpose so that you will see it, that you will be aware, so that you will question what it is that you're seeing. So there's an education going on here with everybody. Now, how is it that Trump's executive orders continue to be extended by this radical White House? Well, that's because it's all part of the movie, okay? The executive orders could only be extended and moved on if military was in control. The Biden administration is not a legal administration. Those of you who know anything about Derek Johnson's work, yes, and I've followed him for a while, you know this. He has shown you the inauguration. He has shown you the funeral. He has shown you the military code of war, showing you there is still a commander in chief. So the whole purpose of this was to buy the American people time to open up their perspective and see what's really been going on. And I don't remember if I said this back in my videos, because I don't remember the details of what I say, because it's been 2.5 years since I've had this channel. But when his supposed inauguration happened, I even told my family members, I'm like, that was a funeral. Like, we've been in the military, and it's like I wasn't the one in the military. I was the wife. But I knew, I was like, that was a funeral. That was not an inauguration. Like, I knew back then, even before Derek Johnson came out. I just never did a video on it. So at least he did, huh? Um okay, and he says, now why am I revisiting this? He says, I understand that this is very, says we've been together for a long time, those of you who are here, but there's always new people, and we have people bootlegging these things now all the time, and there doesn't appear there's much we can do about it. But nonetheless, for those of you who are going to be watching the bootleg, what we as a group here are concerned about is that you fully understand what's going on here, okay? If we didn't have to pay rent and pay bills and buy food, he says, this would be mute, but we're in the same boat you're in. But we want you to understand so that you can prepare for the changes that are coming. And we're going to be talking about that here in just a short bit. Again, this is why I do the transcribing and I do these videos, because it is wrong to just copy that video and put it on. I would never, never do that with anybody else's work. So this is my page, and it's me in front of the camera, and I'm giving his information to you guys for free, because I know a lot of you have commented or emailed and thanking me for doing it, because you don't have the money to watch his webinars. And that does mean a great deal to me, because a lot of the times I feel like I just want to stop doing this. But then I get comments like that are very sincere, and I'm like, okay, that makes it all worth it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So that's why I do it for you guys. You're my family, and I love you. So, let's see. This entire movie, he says, this entire scenario that's been going on since January 20th is about shifting and opening up the consciousness of not only the American people, but the world at large. So when you hear guys like David Nino Rodriguez, who's doing great work, he's had some incredible guests. And if you can go and listen to some of his stuff regarding his interviews with Ghost, he says they're really, really good things, really good stuff. And of course, 107 is just, he says, it takes so long for him to get to the actual intel. So it's hard to sit through it all. But nonetheless, it's very, very valuable information. This part, I was really surprised because he's said that he stopped following SG because of something he said about Washington, President Washington. But now he says SG has been coming up with some interesting information as well. He's apparently a very decent researcher. And he has his own website, okay, on Telegram, and that's where you should go to listen to it instead of propagating his stuff on everybody else's site. Just go to his site and watch it there, okay? Instead of trying to infiltrate other websites with his stuff, we know who he is, okay? We know who he is. There's so much information, it's not worth repeating over and over on all the websites, okay? It's redundant, and it's too much redundancy, actually. I got in trouble on Knights of Terra because many months ago I posted accidentally, I didn't know, it was on another page on Telegram, and I forwarded it to Knights of Terra, and I got information from one of their admins as a warning, never to post his stuff again, or I would be taken out of the group. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Like, I will stop. So I haven't since then. So I find it funny that he's saying this, but I guess, I mean, the way he said it here, he doesn't really want that shit on Knights of Terra either. So just go to SGNon's site. So, the information and the events that are occurring today, he says that information, they're not trying to get your focus. They already know we're awake. They're trying to wake up the normies. And I don't know that many more are going to be awake. I don't know if they even care to be awake. It says, so the purpose is to expose the paradigm that we've been living in, what many people call the matrix. When you realize what we have been being shown by the media, it is not, in fact, real. When you take a step away and you just discard what the media is telling you, and you come to the realization what the world is about is 180 degrees from that point. That point of view that the media is trying to sell you, when you realize the reality is 100% something else, 180% something else, it's a shock to a lot of people. Again, I've always said, whatever you hear, completely flip it the other direction, and that will be your truth. Okay. Many of us have been going through this, leading away from the media for years, decades, in fact. You have to realize that we're at a point now where the matrix is collapsing. They're going to take it down. It is in the process of collapsing as well, and they're showing it to you, all right? Because the only thing that's truly kept it propped up is the media and the financial system. Those are the two pillars. Now, we're both seeing the collapsing. The media's lost the credibility, and the financial system is collapsing because they've created so much debt that the instruments of currency have lost their value. So those other countries have been aware of this, and they've wanted to break themselves free from it. They're creating a whole different paradigm for themselves, okay? They're changing their currency system. They're changing the way they live. They are ignoring, or in many cases, canceling access to Western media because they realize it's all bullshit. So these countries are doing these things. They are taking steps to protect their people and themselves from the matrix. Sadly, the West in the United States and Canada, Australia, even England to a degree, he says they're going to have a very, very difficult time here in the immediate near future. Everything you're hearing about Ukraine is a lie. Russia has kicked their ass. End of story, period. Okay? Whatever the media says, go 180 degrees and that will be the truth. That is, in fact, the truth. Okay? So the Ukraine thing is essentially done. What Russia doesn't want to do is kill all the Ukrainians. That's not what they're about. NATO can't do anything because it's been a paper tiger. They were involved in trafficking, peddling, strong arming. That's all it was worth doing, okay? Because all they were doing was taking the money that the United States was giving them, you, me, the taxpayers, to pay for their defense, and they were shelling it out amongst themselves, paying off bribes, buying homes, vacation places in the Alps. That's all they were doing, okay? They were not actually taking care of business because it's all been a sham for decades and decades, and we're paying for it. Bastards, 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 right? Where are we now? Is that we, the people of the United States, those who are awake, and it's approximately at least 80% of the population of the United States. A lot of people will argue with me, oh, I don't see it. Says, well, a lot of people are keeping their heads down. I've said this many times before. They're not tipping their hats because they don't know who are in their circle that they can trust. And that's understandable. You have patriot militias, you have patriot groups, you have retired law enforcement, you have retired veterans, you have retired military, police, law enforcement, retired government agencies personnel from not only federal but from state, watching the Department of Justice and the FBI write their own rules. They have trashed the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, completely trashed it. And they're watching this. And they're watching this go rogue. And I'm going to tell you straight away, they're locked and loaded. Again, they're locked and loaded. And they're going to defend their homes. They're going to defend their families. And they're going to defend their states if necessary against our own. And this is exactly what the deep state wants. And this is exactly what we cannot allow to happen. So we are sincerely hoping that the White Hat Military Alliance is aware of this. And I've said this before. If this goes kinetic, it's going to get really messy really, really quick. Yeah, we don't want a civil war, right? No. We would prefer that the military step in and put an end to this corrupt regime. And that means making some really hard decisions and some really hard choices and taking down the Department of Justice. It means taking down probably half of the FBI, because not all of the FBI is corrupt, not all of the Department of Justice, but the leadership clearly is. Clearly has been compromised. And at this point, it doesn't matter how they were compromised, but just the fact that they are. And they need to be removed. There are elements within our military who have also been compromised and they need to be removed. The military industrial complex, corporations, that would start a war anywhere in order to make money. Bastards. That's an issue today because we're not going to have our way anymore. The old world is gone. We have to change the way we do things. And if you want to know what it would be like in the United States if we didn't stop this regime, this fake government from continuing to run amok, look up George Washington's vision in Valley Forge and go to the third trial about the nation that the Union goes through. I would suggest you read the entire thing, but especially the third trial, because that's relevant to where we are today. If we don't do something. Now, I do believe something in fact is going to occur, but that doesn't mean our day-to-day life isn't going to be as it is this moment. That's not what this means. When these things go down, we're all going to have to adapt to the changes. And I think it's going to be instant. Like, that's what people don't understand. The Bible says, in the blink of an eye, like all things will change. All things changed that quickly when they got on the news to announce COVID. And then we're in a lockdown. Like, it changed that quick. It's going to be that quick again when the good stuff comes. Those of you who work for the government, many of you, your administrations and departments may not exist on the other side of this because they're unconstitutional. Social Security will go through a lot of dramatic changes. There may be delays. We simply don't know. The post offices, many post offices are shutting down their mail carrier programs. He says, my post office here in Colorado, they no longer have mail carriers. Everything goes to another post office where it sits for another day or 2 or 3 before it actually gets to our post office. That's because they're having to make adjustments because the system isn't there anymore. Plus, they're also making changes for the future, and I will cover that in a few moments. Everything is going to become localized. We've talked about that ad nauseum on these webinars. And for those of you who are in the banking system, where they're shutting down branches, at least 2,500 banks out of the 5,000 in the United States are insolvent, which means they probably will not survive. So you're going to have to make some hard decisions with what you're going to do with your 401ks, your retirement scenarios. You're going to have to make interesting decisions about what to do. You may want to take a look at credit unions and do the research yourself. They operate by different bylaws than the banks do. But then again, credit unions are all about local economy, building the local economy and keeping the money locally. This is a good thing. This is old school, okay? It's always been this way. You're going to need to do this as soon as possible. Doesn't mean that if all the banks close or half the banks close and your chain closes, that you're going to lose everything, but there will be delays in you having access to it. For example, credit unions are not on the QFS yet. If your bank is insolvent, why would they put it on the QFS? These are things you have to begin to research, and you're going to have to ask questions about it. It's change. It's all change. It is a bad thing. Oh, is this a bad thing? No, it's not. It is not a bad thing. It says we have to be lulled. We have been lulled into a coma with this old system, and it was completely having its way with us, and it was completely controlling and manipulating humanity across the board, not just here in the States. So this collapse is showing everybody how broken the system is. And this is creating an opportunity for all of us to reclaim our sovereignty, to take back control of our lives, not trust an organization or a group that is strictly focused on for profit. And what I mean by this or that is that your banking system is for profit. Their job is to make money off of you, bastards. And whatever that looks like, they're going to do. So this is a good thing that you withdraw, that you pull back, and you begin to look objectively at what it is you have been doing. And in so looking at this, you understand that the system that it supports has already collapsed. It's already collapsed. The Treasury's defaulted on debt payment. They can't sell Treasury bonds. No one's coming to the auctions. It's over. He says it's over. It's in a slow collapse, and you're being shown this so you can make some changes and adjustments yourself, because the media isn't going to tell you this, okay? And it's important to make note of this, that why wouldn't they tell us? Because, ladies and gentlemen, they don't give a shit about us. They never really have, which is why the system has become so corrupt, okay? So you're being shown this, and the whole purpose of this is to prepare you for this paradigm shift. And the paradigm shift is where we reclaim our sovereignty. Yes. We begin to localize what it is that we need, as opposed to being dependent on a corporation that have just done ridiculous things. Excuse me. For example, why would they put fetal fetal baby cells, aborted baby cells in food? Why would they do that? Why would they genetically alter our vegetables so that they don't produce seeds, heirloom seeds, so that you could grow the next years or years down the road? Why would they add fish scales DNA to vegetables? So, so it lasts longer on the shelves? Well, what does it do to us? What does it do to our DNA? You see, not enough people are asking these questions. And I'm not even going to mention the treatment, okay? It's obvious that that was a weapon, obviously. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did a speech at a university where he outlines the tracking of all the money. It was the Hillsdale College speech. Hundreds of millions of dollars. You're going to want to see that. He says, you are definitely going to want to see that. It makes perfectly clear that the infrastructure we built or allowed to be built around us, which we now call the federal government, has completely gone rogue. And it has gone so rogue that it has made the citizens its enemy. There's no way to sugarcoat that. That's just a fact, and you'll need to be aware of that. You all need to let that sink in, okay? Because it's coming up. It is already on the move towards us. Do we lose our country? No, no, we don't. But if you're aware, if you're prepared, if you understand what the movement of energy and frequency is, if you understand their intent at this point of what they're doing and why they're doing it, so then you can take a stand and you can tell the storm, no, you will not take me down. That's the whole point of where I'm trying to go with all this. If you have the knowledge with what this is about, what's been done and what's behind you, the spirit of 76, the spirit of patriotism, the spirit of humanity, the love of creator and source, understand that you are backed by the universe. Then you will stand and not wither when the storm hits us and it's on its way. It's totally on its way. Then you will know what to do, and you will also know that you're not standing alone. You will find kinship all around you, and that's where you need to be. You don't need to be a reed in the wind, okay? Blowing which way or the other because you don't understand what's going on. There are some people like that, but it's their choice at the point to ignore all the signs, okay? There's nothing we can do about that. All you can do is love them. At this point, love them from a distance. And when their shit collapses and they don't know what to do, that's when we help them, okay? Because they're not listening. They're just not. And we have to defend each other. Whether we like them or not, we have to defend each other because they're not the enemy. They're just knuckleheads. He says, okay? They're just knuckleheads. They're stuck in the paradigm that no longer exists. And you have to allow them the space for it to collapse. That's their lesson. That's their road. That's their journey. But you can observe and you can watch and you can do what you can to protect them as much as you can sometimes without them even knowing it. Just look after them. But the only way we're all going to ride through this is globally. The only way we're all going to ride through this is if we defend each other. That's how we're going to remain free or become free once again, is through this process, and we will get through this. We will. It's going to be messed up though, and it's going to be so weird and so strange, you know. He says we're going to be like, wow, who came up with this shit? Now, we may not like the way this has been handled. Even the Q post said the ending is not going to be for everyone. Well, look at where it's come to. We could go to war with each other, and that would mean we're not listening to each other. We're just shooting each other. That's not helpful. But we find ourselves in a situation where the world's militaries, the White Hat Alliance, and the militaries around the globe now have to defend the world from this satanic cabal known as the Khazarians. They have many other names as well, and I'm not going to go through all the horrible things this group have been doing, but they're infected. They've infected the world in a very, very dark way. So now we have the military in the process of positioning itself between us and this infection, this disease. It says, now, ladies and gentlemen, the military has their own paradigm. They have a consciousness that they have operated with and have taught the military personnel because it's worked for them. It's what they know. In short term, it's a really good thing. We're not going to be reliant on them, but we're also going to find ourselves indebted, not only for what they did, but for their continued bravery and all that they do. But that is not a long-term solution. The long-term solution is the people, we the people. That is the long-term solution here. We're the ones that have to get back to creating a new domain of knowing. We're the ones that have to create the original organic constitution of the United States. What? Hi. Come back here. We have to embrace it. We have to educate ourselves, not only again, but all generations going back and going forward as to what it means. We also have to include those in school and in colleges, and the millennials, why they created the Bill of Rights. What did that all mean? Why did they preface and create the Bill of Rights? Because if you ignore the past, you're screwed to recreate it. And they know this, and all this stuff. He says, oh, it's just the white man. One of the first presidents of the Congress was black. He was black. Look it up. I think his name was Williamson. So, just stop with all that bullshit. I think he got that name wrong. But look up the first black man in Congress. I forget his name. I looked it up, but then I forgot. So, yes. So, just stop with all that bullshit. Stop with all that bullshit. Every race on this planet has gone through slavery. Every single one of us. And if you want to be technical, you're a debt slave as we sit here now. Because they haven't kicked in Nasara. They haven't wiped out all the debts and wiped the slate clean yet. See, and that's another thing. I see a lot of this stuff going around in Telegram. Oh, when the banking system goes down, when the collapse goes down, all of our debt's going to be wiped. I don't see that happening. I think people are going to lose their money and they're going to lose their shit. And we're not going to be wiped clean of our debt until Trump comes back or the military steps in. Once that happens, he's going to be the good guy and we're going to get all of our money back. Okay, that's how I see it. He says, so technically we're all debt slaves regardless of our color. We are a humanity. We are a civilization that is being given an opportunity to discover the past, to understand what's really happened. And then we're being given the time to contemplate what all that meant and where we are today so that we can mature to become an advanced civilization in the near future. If we intend to survive, if we intend for future generations to have a Star Trek future, to travel the stars, to bring back knowledge of other races and other worlds, and to explore our own galaxy, then we damn well better pay attention to what we're doing right now. Because the minute this thing goes live, he says right there, The minute this thing goes live, we either rise to the occasion or we fall flat on our face. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't want us to fall flat on our face. There's no reason to fall flat on our face. Enough people know what's been going on that we have got to be ready to move forward, to take leadership positions, to manage our local communities, to get rid of those who are on the take, who are useless, absolutely useless, who have done nothing for anybody, but line their own fucking pockets, to just kick their ass out of here, make them move to another country. We have to be willing to do this and just say, this is the way it's going to be from now on, okay? Excuse me. We have to protect ourselves. We cannot trust anybody else to do it anymore. We can't. Everything's about to change. The way we think, the way we educate, the way we pray, the way we heal our bodies, all of this is about to change. We're in the process of that change now. These medical institutions, these pharmaceutical companies, we cannot trust them to take care of us. We cannot trust them to heal us because, point of fact, they haven't healed anything. All they've done is make more and more money off of us, the citizenry. They have been feeding off of us. And I'm just going to say it, okay? They've been fucking vampires. Said there may be some good people in it, but the ones that run the company, board of directors, they only see us as a natural resource. Sorry, wrong answer. They need to go away. That whole industry needs to go away because it hasn't served us. Do you know that in 2025, they're expecting autism to be in 1 out of every 2 children? 1 out of every 2 children. Right? Now it's out. Of every 28 back in the 80s, it was 1 out of every 10,000. What's the common denominator in all of that? 1983, you got 10 vaxes. 2022, it was 74. Each child is getting 74. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This has gone awry, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it has. This has totally gone awry. And we have got to stand together and put an end to this. We're going to be given the opportunity. The reason this isn't over already is because we had intervention. We've had intervention off world. Excuse me. I got itch in my eye. Off-world intervention by beings that are connected to us genetically and who are connected to us through soul groups. And it doesn't matter if you believe it or not, okay? You will in a very short matter of time. And going back, speaking of the pharmaceutical companies and the vaccines, I got an email from a person who had watched my video on if you're a pet lover, please watch this video. And I did a video about the vaccinations on pets and how they're killing our pets too. And this person from Nepal emailed me, BJ, I'm not sure how to pronounce their name, but I thought it was very sweet. And they explained how they had an older dog, 13 years old, I think they said, and they took it to the vet because the vet said it needed its vaccinations. And basically within an hour of getting that shot, their dog died. Yeah, and they explained a little bit more, and I just felt so sorry. And I replied back to them, so people need to, you need to do your research on that stuff. Okay. It's very important. If you love your pets, you want the best for them too. They are furry children. So they have begun the process of process of letting you know what many of us have already known for decades, for lifetimes. And the point of the matter is, you as a soul are part of a much larger family than you can possibly imagine. And that will change your perspective of who you are. And that's a journey of all of us have been on from the very beginning. Okay. And it's entirely up to you to figure it out. We can give you the answers, we can help you find the answers, but you're the one that has to come up with the questions. You do. You have to come up with the questions because that shows that you're doing introspection, voluntary introspection. And that's what's necessary in order for all of us to empower ourselves. And this journey is not over by any stretch. There are new technologies coming out. Some of them are good, some of them are so so. Some of them may turn out to be outright dangerous, but there's absolutely no more dangerous than what they've already been doing to us, changing our DNA, altering who we are without our knowledge. Who the fuck do they think they are? He says. It's not okay. It's not okay. In defending each other, we will remain free. Become free and remain free. Right now, we're not and haven't been. That's been an illusion. Okay, and then he says, it is my understanding that in order for the global currency reset, which is happening outside the United States, that process has already begun. Countries are openly talking about the hard asset currency system. They are talking about forgiving debt. Countries are doing that for each other already, and it's very hard to get that information here in the United States because our media is so corrupt, and you got to know it. They're corrupt. They're paid to lie to us, and they do a very good job. They're the best, actually. He says, now they're incorporating AI. Google is, and I don't know what that's going to look like. It says, but you can see it. Okay, there's a lot of infiltration already beginning where it's changing. It's trying to change the narrative to make everybody back into the victim. Okay, to shine light. Oh, well, the pedophiles are just victims as well. This is not okay. This is not moral behavior. It is not okay to abuse children. It is not okay to kill children. It is not okay to enslave children. It is flat out not okay. We have got to put an end to this bullshit, this narrative. What you do in the bedroom is your business. It's your business, but it's not okay to do this shit with children. I'm going to add, or animals, okay, who are not your own. It's not even okay to do it to your own. And I don't care about the nasty grams. He says, I will walk away from this nonsense because I've had it. He says, I've just had it. If you had kids, would you have someone come in and do those things to them? Hell no. You damn sure wouldn't. So why is it okay that you do it to other kids or other children? It's not. It's not. He says, we have been given this time to straighten our sails, to turn our sails into the wind, to move forward. Now, the rumor is that Iraq is going to approve its budget and they're going to release a rate. That would be the first major step to this thing happening. And I think that did happen a couple months ago. Now, for those of you who hold currency, and if you don't, you will have to figure this out on your own. There's some things you need to do, to look at, to be aware of, okay? The first thing is when you go into exchange, wherever that is. So there's a long spiel here he gives about banking and exchanging money, so just bear with me. You tell them up front you want copies of all of your signed documents and agreements. You get printed receipts for everything that you do in regards to all the accounts that you open or you already have. This would include deposits, debits, and any current balances, okay? You ask for the best rates possible. If there's any stipulations or conditions on any contract rates, and make sure that you fully understand what that is about. Do you need to open any other accounts or sub-accounts in additions to those you already have? Have them fully explain to you what the QFS account is and the blockchain account. What do you do? What do you have to do? How is it protected? How do you need to operate with it? And there's a lot more to that question. I guess, and a bunch of people wrote him questions about the like revaluation and the QFS. So he reads some questions out during this and he kind of answers this. So he's got a question: can you have multiple sub accounts in the quantum financial system, and will they be held in the bank, or will they not be held in the bank? How much can you bring down under each sub account? In other words, a sub account could be a trust you set up for your children or your grandchildren. That could be some idea of a sub account. What you can take out of your primary account and move down there. How do you do it? What is the process? How does it work with the kids, your grandchildren? Who do you set up as trustees if something happens to you? Does it go to their parents? How does that all work? Because when it comes to money, when it comes to the new financial system, everything's going to be different, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Says this is what you need to understand. We're all going to get a new education about this because the old system not only didn't work, they were stealing, they were siphoning, they were borrowing your money without your knowledge. Even the banks were creating sub accounts based on your account in your own identity. You know, says you're going to be amazed when you find out what's been going on, okay? When we bought this house and we had our mortgage with Wells Fargo, about a month later in the mail, I got a debit card. We got debit cards for a new account that we didn't even open. Okay, we didn't sign anything. We didn't open an account with them because they wanted us to pay our mortgage. They wanted all of our money in their bank. Because we never did checking with them. Our mortgage was just through them, but they opened a new account under our name. So I should have called them and bitched and complained. And I know at that time, many other people, like that was happening to them too. And I just kind of let it go. But I should have said something. He said, your birth certificates were being traded on the stock exchange without your knowledge. Okay. And he kind of chuckles and he says, you have to be aware of all this stuff. And then how this new system is going to operate. Will interest be paid on monies kept on the quantum financial system? And how many accounts can I get interest in? This is really interesting. I don't even have an answer for myself at this moment either. Either it might be that interest may only be paid on something that's put into a wealth management account. Okay. But these are really interesting questions you have to ask. How much interest are we getting and when does it start? That's of course connected to how do we get interest? Can I get it in quarterly installments? Every 3 months or every fourth month, you'll get a payment. How much interest can I get on Zim monies if you hold Zim? Pacific Zim. How will that work? And only allowed to pull down a certain amount. When will I be able to get interest on the other monies? How that's all going to work, nobody knows exactly just yet. I know there's a lot of rumors, there's been a lot of things said, but you know, this is very, very fluent. This is changing all the time. So you're going to want to be prepared to deal with either a great deal of money or not. Now, if it's not going to be a great deal of money and they're going to lop zeros off of it, it's still going to be a significant amount of money. You will be able to invest it into humanitarian programs. Those humanitarian programs, it's my understanding, will have uh, an interest dividend that will be paid on that amount. You're going to have to be aware of this and how it all works. And you need to be calm. And if you don't understand, you need to make them explain it to you. If they don't have the time to explain it to you, you make no commitments and you make another appointment and you come back with a wealth manager, with someone who you trust, who understands at least the verbiage, okay? You don't allow anyone to take advantage of you. Is there a maximum amount I can put in a primary account that I will get interest on? These are all very valid questions. Will there be a class on the quantum financial system and how to learn how to have access? Will there be institutions that will be educating humanity on this new financial system? Will you need to purchase a new separate computer just for the QFS banking? I don't think so, but who knows? That's a very valid question. I've heard about the phones. I've heard about the computers. I don't know anyone who has one. He says, I don't know anyone who's actually seen one. Okay. And there are a lot of people who say, yeah, you know, that they're real. Okay. Until you see it yourself, we don't know that we do. Am I being given an active and secure debit card attached to the mother load account? Is the account safe, etc.? These are great questions. But when you're there and you're talking about this, if you were to somehow lose your account or card, I don't even know how that works. But today, how that works is those people that have a lot of wealth, they have sweep or sub accounts. And what they'll do is they move money into those sub accounts, and that's what they spend every month. So that if something happens and that account is discovered, they could only wipe out that amount of money. They do not have access to your mother lode ever. In fact, there are ways to hide your mother lode account so that no one even knows that it exists. And the way that they protect that is what they call sweep accounts, or maybe for purposes of this conversation, a sub account, okay? Where you move money every month to that account and that's what you spend. And if you have a vacation coming or you're buying your grandson a new car because he's graduating college, or you're buying yourself a new car, then that money would be moved to that sub account or sweep account, okay? These are all ways of rethinking. I have never done a humanitarian project. Is there a team that can help me set up that and implement that? He says, yes, most banks will be able to. There will also be other organizations that will assist with that. There are humanitarian groups that hold classes on how to do that. There will be a list of humanitarian programs that you could use and participate in. And you would ask for that list and you could schedule and come back and would give you time to research these humanitarian projects that move you and give you time to investigate who they are and what they do and how successful they are. Sorry, this is long, I know, guys. Is there a need for any security measures to be put in place for me or my new quantum financial system? Excellent questions. You want to get a business card from everyone that you talk to, all right? Make sure you see money in the account before you leave the building. Count twice before signing off on anything. Research. Read the document twice. If there's something you don't understand, you ask them about it. If there's something you don't like in the contract, you ask them to change the verbiage or you ask them to delete it. If they say no, they cannot, and you're uncomfortable with it, then don't sign it. You want proof of funds. You want clean, clear certificates showing that the money was there because of an exchange. And it has nothing to do with drug trafficking or anything else that's nefarious. And that's what that documentation is for, so that when you have to go to another place, say you want to buy a home, that when you present the funds, you present the certificate that is clear, clean funds. This will expedite the process of you being able to buy a home and things like that. Okay. I can put this list on Knights of Terra for you or on alexcollier.org. Last but least, finding and holding the balance through all these changes. There are many, many people well versed in all these changes or expected changes who are not at all surprised or caught off guard by anything that's happening now. Come here, Miss Up and Down. That does not mean that it's not possible to get deprived or knocked off balance by events that are coming, because the white hats are never going to telegraph what they're going to do, okay? Their sole purpose is to take down the deep state, okay? Khazarian mafia, etc., etc. And that's their job. And they're very, very serious about this because humanity hangs in the balance. The treatment was a bioweapon. Its sole purpose was to harm and eliminate humanity. So, and for those of you who are just sitting there, it can't possibly be true. Why would they do that? You haven't done enough research yet. You are looking in all the wrong places for the truth, because it is out there. The truth of what they've done is out there. So you just need to find out for yourself. Ask somebody who's on the chat. Ask a conspiracy theorist who you make fun of all the time. What's the story here? They'll tell you. It says they'll tell you. The reason we've been shouting into the wind is because they give a shit about humanity. They care about their own families, which is why they continue to shout into the wind, hoping you will pay attention. The more you educate yourself, the more you emotionally detach from what the media is trying to tell you, from the narrative that the media is giving you. If you can emotionally detach from that narrative, realizing that it's bullshit, then you will act and not react. If you're stressed out at night before you go to bed, watch something funny. Go to TikTok, go to YouTube, find a comedian you find funny and listen to them, okay? Laugh. Release the stress from your body. Listen to really great music, music that inspires you, that makes you cry. I do. And brings back a memory so that you can release the stress in your body. Prayer, meditation, surrender it to God, surrender it to Source, the Holy Spirit, to Great Spirit, whatever term you use, just surrender it. Please take the stress from me. Please guide me in my decisions of what it is that I need to do to protect myself and my family and loved ones. The help is here. It says you just have to open to it. And I'll tell you, this is what I do every day that I get in the car and I go somewhere. I go to work. When I get in the car, I do my sign of the cross. I call upon the Creator, Great Spirit, my higher self, all my guardians and guides. Said, please protect me today. Please get me through today and let today be a good day. And that's what I say. So, and it usually turns out pretty well. And as I see the hawks all sitting on the telephone poles as I'm driving down into town, I always say, hello, beautiful. Aren't you pretty? That may be crazy, but that's what I say because they are. They're beautiful. He says, nature, go for walks. He says, go for walks. Work in your garden, love your pets, lay with them, allow them to love you back. Make time for them. They're probably all around you all the time wanting your attention, but you're so distracted in survival that you're not paying attention to them. It's very important. Let them love you. Instead of the TV, instead of the news, turn the fucking thing off. Pull out a game from your closet and play with the kids. And if you don't have any children, because they've moved on, call them a couple times a week just to touch base and let them know that you love them, okay? And do some research on the things that are going on now. And if you don't understand, ask for help. We all want to help. We're all very, very decent people. You have your percentage of idiots. This is you do. But for the most part, we're all pretty decent. We're all very kind. That's how humanity has survived, because the majority of us are really, really good, decent folks. It says, if you hold currency, and even if you don't, regardless of your age, regardless of your circumstances, spend some quiet time and ask yourself, what do you want? What is it that you want? Do you have everything you want in your life right now? Are you absolutely 100% content with what it is that you have and where your life is? If the answer is yes, he says, know that you are a completely blessed person, absolutely blessed. Give thanks for that. Have that attitude of gratitude, because you are exactly where you want to be. That is outstanding. He says many of us would be totally jealous of that. If the answer is no, then figure out what it is that you could do. What is it that you could do to have those things in your life, and begin the process of figuring out how to have those things in your life? What is it that you need? Because if you don't know what you want, how in the world can you ask for it? Wouldn't it be amazing if we, as a civilization, finally came to the realization that we can all have exactly what we want and at the same time help others have exactly what they want? Wouldn't that be amazing? Ugh, absolutely. Wouldn't that be a revelation? Would it be a profound thing for you to find out that there are other civilizations of human beings that already do this? They already have this type of civilization. They already live this, and at some point, they're going to help us have that too. But we have to be able to stand on our own feet. We have to be solid with ourselves and each other, because this worshiping of other beings is not cool. That is not what this is about. Love thyself, know thyself. And in that power, you will be able to know others and love others. And then you don't need to worship or give your power away to anyone. You become a sovereign being, regain your sovereignty as a soul, so that when you leave this life, you are an equal no matter where your soul goes. He says, I have no idea how long I've been talking for, he says, but I think I'm done. He says, I'm ready for some questions. There probably aren't any questions, right? And he laughs. And JP says, 90 minutes. And Alex says, wow, no shit. He says, it went by in no time. Sorry, folks. Okay, so we're on to the questions. First question, what is the mechanism and criteria to be met for us to get our full memories back of past lives, etc.? Do we individually control this, or will it just happen at some point? Wondering what we are waiting for. Thanks. And Alex's answer was, well, it's my understanding that one individual can do that, and that's by raising frequency. It's by raising your frequency, and most of that is not only your real-time attitude, but the unconscious chatter that you have in your head. If you can maintain that and you're aware of the unconscious chatter in your head, then you are able to maintain your frequency and hold that frequency regardless of what's going on around you. The other is that the frequency changing that's occurring here on the earth? That's occurring here in our solar system. That's occurring with our suns. He says that at some point will begin where people's third strand of DNA will turn on, and that's where our memories are stored. All of our past life, future lives are stored, are in the third strand of DNA. Once that switches on, you become the ultimate being you have always been. And some people are able to do that already and turn that on themselves. So, if I had the answer to that, I would have done it for myself. But I'm in this process just like you guys. I'm here for the ride too. But I appreciate your question. Thank you very much. I do. Okay. Next question: was the smoke from the Canadian Mexican fires used as a smokescreen for military aircraft movements? It says Judy. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of rumors about that. And some other rumors are that thousands of Chinese troops were taken out, and I mean thousands. I've even heard a number, 100,000. As many as 100,000 Chinese troops were removed or taken out. Of course, the Canadian citizens weren't told there were that many. They were only told there were 10,000 here to learn winter maneuvers. It says, well, you already know how your government and how deceitful it is. So we have that same issue here in the States as well. And he kind of laughs and he says, but those are rumors. I don't have any hard evidence of that. Next question. Can you explain the difference between the reevaluation redemption payouts and the payouts for back federal taxes and birth certificates, basically Zim dollars, etc.? He says, my understanding is one of the first things that the QFS and the Restored Republic is going to do is that they've already researched everyone's birth certificate bonds and whatever taxes that they paid, etc., that would have come as a lump sum, and that would start with those on Social Security over age 62, because they're already in the system. Many of us who are not pulling Social Security yet, they would have to figure out another way to get that money to us. And it would go down the line because that money was stolen, literally stolen, embezzled from us. Now, do I have the hard details on that? No, I do not. Yeah, just our taxes alone that we've paid over our whole working life. My God, like, can you imagine that? That's a huge amount of money, especially those of us who are older. Like, yeah, I've been working since I was 16. So, yeah, a lot of money. Next question, Alex. I heard that our society will be split up into two groups during the transition. One group will remain in the third density because their soul's not ready, and the other group will move into the fourth and fifth density. What should be the required characteristics of a person in order to move into the fourth and fifth? He says, all right, I've heard that. I don't necessarily give it any credibility, but if you're concerned about moving from third into fourth consciousness and into fifth, the demands are actually quite small. He says, number one, it's all frequency. Raise your frequency. And a lot of people don't realize, like, how do I raise my frequency? Well, be a kind person. Be nice to people. Compliment people. Just don't be an asshole. Be kind to animals. Be kind to other people. Help each other. That's all it takes. And you'll raise your frequency. Being in nature. Raise your frequency, and there's a lot of ways to do that. It all starts here. He says, okay, raise your frequency. It all starts from here in the heart. Maintain that frequency and just be authentic. Okay, just be authentic. Yeah, raise your frequency. You live from your heart, not your head. Like your head, you use it in unison, but like live by your heart. Okay, that's all you have to do. It says, be real. Always come from a place of being real and being authentic. Do not wear a mask. If they don't vibrate to you, love them from a distance. Just walk away and love them from a distance. Those people that you do not vibrate to or who are of a like vibration, you will find them and they will find you. That's how it's always worked. Don't put on a mask to please someone who isn't going to be pleased. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. So don't be fake. Don't be a fake person. Okay. Don't live by your ego either. Just be humble. It says, and it will lower your frequency. Okay. If just be authentic, be real, create the life you want. There was a presentation that was done by Tyler Perry, and he used the analogy of a booster rocket, that we're all rockets, and we have people that come into our lives for just a season. They're not meant to be there forever, and essentially what they do is they're booster rockets. They come into your life and take you to the next level, and as you raise your frequency, those booster rockets fall off. And it's not because they're bad people, it's simply because they don't vibrate. They can't go to the same frequency where you're at. So they fall off, and that's their job. And that's your job, to go to the next level. That's not to say there won't be others who will come be their booster rocket to get them to the next level of frequency. You don't know, but your job is to get there and maintain space there. There are people who come into our life, and they're there for a very short time, and you will remember them forever because they've made such an impression or they've changed us in some way. Whether it's a love, or there was someone we really deeply cared about that was taken early for whatever those reasons are. We probably won't have those answers until we've crossed over to the other side, and then we're shown our life, and then we'll understand why things happened. But always try to be present every single moment of every single day. And it's not easy, but always try to be present. And in that presence, you're here and now. You're aware of the frequency. You're aware of the love that you're creating and what's going on around you. And remember that what you give every moment of every day is what you will get back every moment of every day. Okay. It really does work. It does work. And he kind of laughs and he says, sometimes we have to wait for others to catch up, but we love them, right? So we're willing to be patient and wait for them to catch up. And if they can't catch up, then we have to move on and love them from a distance. You cannot make the journey for others. You can only make the journey for yourself. You can help others on their journey, but there's no guarantee they're going to make the journey with you. That's just how it's always been. He says, growing up, some of us always wanted to be more. We always wanted to be more worthy. And a lot of that had to do with social structure, religions, family dynamics. We all wanted that. And I think for the most part, on some level, we always knew we were worth more than we were told. And it's always important to remember that our parents, are products of their childhood and how they were raised. If we were all to go back in time, how much of our life would we choose to change? And in the change, would we be who we are today? Would we arrive at the same place? I want you to know from the bottom of my heart, and I'm saying this about myself as well, that who we are right now is not only enough and not only has more value than can be comprehended, but that has brought us all to exactly where we need to be right now, right here today, to move through this process and to help humanity graduate not only into another paradigm, but into an entirely different consciousness. It says it's perfect. the way it's meant to be right now. We all have would've, could've, should'ves, but the minute you let that go and you embrace yourself for who you are, all that shit goes away. Says all that shit goes away because it's not serving any of us holding on to that. Those would've, could've, should'ves. Now what matters is being whole. That's what matters, is being whole right here, right now. Because right here, right now, we are creating our future. We are creating what it is that we want. That's right here, right now. If you're holding on to the past, then you have one foot there and one foot in the future. You're not going anywhere until you let go of the past. And now all of your energy now goes to create the future that you want. It says, and the best way to let this go is to realize it's not serving you. You already lived it. Let it go. Forgive it and let it go. Love yourself. Love thyself. That you can move forward. You know, he says, it has happened. Shit has happened. We've all had tough times. We've all been wounded and hurt and betrayed. And at some point, you have to let it go. And the minute you let it go, you empower yourself to be here now so that you can move forward and take all that experience and teach what you know. It has to happen. Next question. Skinwalker Ranch, or Sherman Ranch, as it's otherly known, 512 acres located in the southeast of Ballard, Utah, that is reputed to be the site of paranormal and UFO related activity. Can you shed any light on what went on there in the past and what, if anything, is still hidden there today? And this is a long one. So Alex says, no, I do not know what happened in the past, but it's obvious that there is at least one or three or up to three craft there. It's also obvious there is a very large underground there, whatever that is. Now, I understand this property was managed and studied for 20 years prior to this, to what's going on there now. And I know the narrative is that they couldn't figure it out. He says, I don't buy that narrative. I don't think they know fully what's there. They've just decided to leave it alone, or they've come to terms with whatever it is. He says, I find it fascinating. I do. I also find what's really fascinating with what's going on off the coast of Nova Scotia, the whole Oak Island thing. And I used to watch that when we had TV. And I think it's on Discovery, or was it History? I think it's History Channel. The Oak Island. Yeah, with the two brothers. Like, that was a great show. I loved it. I haven't watched it in years, though. I understand the show. He says, I understand that we understand what people say, but the fact of the matter is, they are finding relics that go back 50 to 100 BC on this island. That completely destroys the whole Columbus thing. And, it only adds credibility to what a lot of people talk about in dark rooms. For example, the Perry Reese map. That map was put together by a Spanish admiral or Portuguese admiral. He says, I can't remember which. And on the notations of the original map, he makes reference to maps that he used that were given to him from Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great was given those maps by a librarian at the Library of Alexandria, and it has maps of the entire coastlines of the world. And again, the Library of Alexandria was the one they burned everything down in, supposedly. Coastlines of the world, including Antarctica, without ice on it. He says, that intrigues me. That intrigues me. I love that. I love that shit too. And that's why I pay attention to it. He says, I know the history they taught us was bullshit. I've always known that since I was little. But I'm intrigued because I wonder, as they talk about these things, there are people in other homes who are watching this What are they thinking? He says, I'm curious. I always try to imagine the light bulbs going off in other living rooms when people hear this information. It's exciting to me because it opens up perception. And I get really excited when people open up perceptions because it makes room for things that I've talked about all these years and what other people have talked about all these years. He says one very, very good book that was written years ago was the book called Pole Shift by John White. Okay, fascinating information in that book about archaeological finds, not just in the world, but here in North America. Amazing stuff. There's so much history. There's so much to us, he says, that we don't know about. The Davenport calendar that was discussed in Davenport, Iowa, and they tried to pass it off as a fake. He says it's not a fake. They called it a fake because they couldn't explain it. And what it is a stone that was carved to celebrate an event that was happening in that part of what is now Davenport, Iowa. And it is Egyptians and Iberians that were moving across America, going somewhere, probably the Grand Canyon, and share that. And I'll share that with you in a minute. Why in a minute, he says, and it's written in 3 different languages. It talks about a festival of Osiris. Um, they were celebrating a holiday for Osiris. They put the map constellation on the stone. It's written in 3 different languages, which are extinct now. And I believe it's around 200 BC. And this lines up with America BC, which is another book, which was written by Barry Fell, of the archaeological finds of the Egyptians and Iberians and Phoenicians, showing that they had been in the Americas thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And this gives credence to the fact that where they were going and why the Grand Canyon is so important. There were artifacts, and there are still artifacts that are in the Grand Canyon in an area where no one is allowed to go. There is a lot of land. If you look at a map of the US and see where all the federal land is and that people can't go on it, you damn well guarantee that there is shit there. There's stuff there that we're not allowed to know what is there because the federal government has taken over. So there's a lot. There's a lot we're going to find out. They're hiding from us. Yeah, and he says, and it is believed by many that the original Book of the Dead, where it talked about the ancient lands of the West, where the kings were buried, was America, what we now know as America. And that this canyon, this place that was the Valley of the Kings, was in fact the Grand Canyon. Um, and they spent a lot of time there at the Smithsonian destroying or hiding records that were there, the giants and all kinds of things. And so we haven't been given our true history either. Which, yeah, I remember seeing hieroglyphics of stargates in Egypt, of these creatures coming in and out. And we know now that they've had flying machines, such as helicopters and hovercrafts and things. So it could be very well possible that they used those things to travel to the Grand Canyon from other parts of the world to bury their dead. It's very possible. That's what I think. Says, but there is a lot more to the Grand Canyon than we were taught. And the Native Americans talked about the ant people that were there that helped the Native Americans survive earth changes, and that they were underneath the Grand Canyon as well. Just like the ant people that JP talks about with Dr. Michael Sala's work in Florida. He says canyons protecting giants, their bodies, and saying people all over the world that the indigenous people know of. So we have this underlying history that is just absolutely fascinating. And I tried to explain this once to one of my kids about the history, and he's like, Dad, there's no future in history. And I was like, you asshole. And he laughs and he says, I heard that joke years ago, and he just threw it back at me. He says, but history is extremely relevant. It is. Okay, next to last question. I think this is the last question, maybe. Okay. When we are finally a real community of one humanity and we get to see our families from the stars, this made me cry. Will we have the pleasure and honor to meet Mornay? I have a great respect for him. And he says, yeah, I think so. I do. I fully expect it. He has talked for many, many years about meeting us and walking amongst us. His timing was off, but they never knew how to tell time in third density because they're not here. They've been right about their stuff though, their facts. They just can't tell time. But yeah, I would expect it. I would fully expect that there would be a great deal of show and tell. Um, we were your cousins. This is where we're from. This is what we're about. These are the commonalities that we share. I would fully expect that to occur. In fact, I know it will occur. I just don't know when that moment will be. So, yeah, it's going to be great. It's really going to be great. And it will be great for humanity because our humanity will finally have a perspective. We will have another perspective of what other races are like. And we will learn a lot about ourselves in those moments, and we will see the good things that we have because there will be commonalities with very advanced benevolent races, and we will understand ourselves a lot better in that moment, and we will appreciate not only what we've been through but also how much we've grown, and it will inspire us to do more do more for future generations as they come along, because we're going to continue to have children. So it's all good. It's all good. He says, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening, for supporting our little webinar. For those of you who've given me donations this past week, thank you, thank you, thank you. It means a lot to me. Again, prepare yourself. Make sure your pantry's full for at least several weeks worth of food. If you have the opportunity to buy a little bit of silver, please do so. Just if you had to go camping, what would you do? What would you have around you in order to make sure you could do that and move about your house? Make sure you have those pieces for yourself because it could get interesting, and it could get interesting in a heartbeat. Okay? God bless you. I love you. We'll see you next week. Okay. So that's it. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all your lovely comments. If you like this, hit the likes button, subscribe. Yeah, right now we're in the fall. Happy fall equinox, everybody. So yeah, awesome. Fall's coming, Red October's coming. Yeah, buckle up. Just live day to day. Just live by the day. That's all I can do. And I swear, like, time is speeding up faster and faster and faster. And I'm like, oh my God. I go to work at 6 a.m. I'm off at 3, and I'm like 4 hours in the morning from 6 to 10. I don't know where that time goes. It flies by because we're so busy that, like, yeah, I don't know. My life this summer, I don't even know where the summer went. It's gone. I swear. So, yeah, lots of things coming. Yeah, so hang in there. Thank you so much. Thank you for get a few donations trickling in here and there. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. That helps me a great deal. still to do this. So I love all of you. I wish I could give you a great big hug. Hang in there. I love you. We're going to make it. We're going to get through this. Okay? We have each other. You are my soul family. And have a wonderful week. And continue to be that lighthouse in the dark and shine your light. Okay? I love you all, and we will see you